Are you tired of seeing this screen? Are you tired of losing control of your characters in PvP and not knowing what to do? Are you frustrated with facing team after team of seemingly unbeatable, invincible Jean Greys that render all of your characters suddenly useless? Do you furiously tap on your phone or on your iPad or tablet or furiously click on your mouse, unable to cast your skills while Jean Grey does whatever the hell she wants? Well, you're in luck. You have just joined as part of a class action suit against Netmarble, hypothetically speaking, in a fantasy world where we get to complain about the bullshit treatment of immune to guard break and why immune to guard break really means sort of, kind of, most of the time immune to guard break, but sometimes not immune at all, despite nothing being different. So, hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, it's Cynicalex. What am I talking about? Well, I'm going to give you a first-hand example of what I'm talking about, and then we're going to dive into why this is such a big deal and what we can do to kind of get Netmarble to at least acknowledge this and make it public, and then from there, what else we're going to do about it. So it's going to be a very simple test here. We're going to be fighting a Jean Grey, we're going to be fighting a Jean Grey that's tier 2, not tier 3, because we don't want to die too quickly. Thank you, Gangster24. And I'm going to use my Wolverine as the test dummy. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with my build for Wolverine, I will show you now that I have guard break immunity. And what you will see is Wolverine's head rocking back whenever Jean decides to do her 5th skill or her 1st skill. And there we go, the head rocking, the head rocking, the head rocking. And for those of you that don't know, that head rocking motion is known as guard break. It's an ability in this game that interrupts the character's attack motion, and it basically forces them to do a basic attack. Well, in this case, they're not doing basic attacks, they're just standing around. And that's what that head rocking motion is. Every character has a version of the head rocking motion. It's identical for all characters, and that head rocking motion is why you suddenly can't move, why your character suddenly will not cast any of his skills, and why you usually end up losing fights to those characters. And that head rocking motion, and the fact that the head rocking motion, which is guard break, because guard break stops you from casting your skills, it basically locks your skills and doesn't let you cast them, and because most of the time it also locks your joystick and doesn't let you move, you can imagine an ability that locks your skills and locks your joystick is pretty fucking OP. Yeah, of course. So that's why the method, and that's why the suggestion, the idea, and the wisdom for all PvP characters is they must have immune to guard break. Okay, so you have to have immune to guard break because you don't want to get guard broken, and as we can see, guard breaking is really bad. But well, what's going on? I have immune to guard break on Wolverine, right there on his CTP. And you might be thinking, well, maybe there's something wrong with the CTP of regeneration. Maybe it's bugged. No, it's not bugged. It's all of the fucking, it's everything. Anything, whether it's a CTP or an obelisk that says guard break immunity, is lying. It's not lying for the majority of the characters, but there's a long list of characters, most notably Jean Grey, who can bypass that guard break immunity, and she will guard break you even if you have guard break immunity. Now, let's just get into the full details of this. There is a separate group of characters: Apocalypse, Doctor Strange, Thanos, and then in some cases, characters like Strife who have incapacitation, which will remove your active buff. But to be more simplistic, there are a few characters here, Thanos being one of them with Titan's Stab, and Doctor Strange and Apocalypse being others, who remove all buffs from the target. Those all buff removals will include your obelisk or CTP buffs. So yes, Thanos, Doctor Strange, and Apocalypse, and then other characters with incapacitation can remove temporarily your obelisk or CTP guard break effect. And then if they remove your guard break immunity, then of course you can be guard broken, and then they can start guard breaking you. However, if you switch characters, like if I were to get, you know, attacked by Doctor Strange and he steals my guard break immunity, and then Wolverine switches to Victorious, Victorious dies and Wolverine comes back, I get my guard break immunity back. With characters like Jean Grey, it doesn't matter what you do. You can switch, you can dance, you can rain money down, you can equip 5 CTPs. She will guard break you no matter what. There is a hidden guard break immunity penetration on this ability. And it's really fucking stupid because she is by far not the only, first of all, not only is she not the only character that has this, this is a very prevalent problem, but also she's a really strong character even without the guard break immunity penetration. So, you know, to get into a little bit more detail about how many characters have this ability, I'm going to reference a list of characters that was published in a video not that long ago by Dr. For Magic and Yuigo. Sorry if I messed your name up. Those two guys are from Dream, and they made a video talking about the difference between super armor and immune to guard break. And during that video, they listed off a whack of characters that they have tested that have this immune to guard break penetration. Now, Jean Grey is the one that I am kind of aiming my sights at right now, because this is kind of a polarizing moment in the game's history. You know, we've got updates with Captain Marvel coming out, and she dominates the PvP scene for a while. Thanos comes out and he tries to counter her, and now Jean Grey just comes in and she fucking bulldozes everyone else, and she's completely unstoppable in a one-on-one situation. She's almost completely unstoppable. I said almost because it's not 100% of the time, but even for characters that have guard break immunity as a part of their passive ability, I'm talking Cull Obsidian, Singularity, Ant-Man, She-Hulk, they are not safe. Literally no character in the game is safe from this. So I'm going to list off the whole whack of characters right now on the screen so you guys can see. I list the character and then I list which one of their skills. In the case of Sharon Rogers, it's her old uniform 5th skill that creates that black ball, and you can see if you have a good memory of these skills, and if you don't, I'll just remind you, almost all of these skills have something in common. They are either skills that create tornado effects, like visually they create tornadoes or some sort of swirling motion, or they create some sort of pulling in motion in terms of like a vortex or a black hole or some sort of orb that kind of just vibrates on its own. That's the vast majority of skills that have this guard break immunity penetration. And why is guard break immunity penetration a problem? Why am I so stressed out? Why is this a video? Because it completely invalidates strategies of building guard break immunity, and it's easily the most frustrating thing about playing PvP. More frustrating than, you know, starting a PvP battle and having your skills on cooldown. More frustrating than some iframes trigger before other iframes, so your iframe gets interrupted and theirs doesn't. It's more frustrating than literally any other thing, because you're trying to play with your character and then suddenly you can't. And even though you've built your character perfectly, too fucking bad, you just happen to roll the dice and you faced one of these characters that are on this list here, and they happen to have a skill that just says fuck you and ignores you. You can basically imagine that this would be the same situation if all of these characters had an undocumented ignore iframe ability. Now imagine how chaotic that would be. I mean, it would honestly be maybe a little bit better nowadays because of Captain Marvel being so dominant with ignore iframe, but just imagine if all of these characters suddenly had ignore iframe on each of these skills. You would go mad because it would be so frustrating, and it would just force so many characters into the darkness. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to show you another example of 3 characters that you may or may not know apparently have guard break immunity penetration. So we're gonna do this team right here. One of these characters you may recognize as Nova, who you probably can guess has ignore iframe, or sorry, guard break immunity penetration. He has it on his 2nd skill, and his 2nd skill penetrates everything else. It penetrates super armor, barrier, shield, immunity, invincibility. But it also has a hidden guard break immunity penetration. It also has ignore iframe, which technically makes it the strongest skill in the game, or I mean by way of, you know, being completely unavoidable and under any circumstances, because there's literally nothing you can do. Even with guard break immunity, you're not going to get out of it. Now it's not the best in terms of who it's attached to, because the character nowadays just can't do enough damage to kill certain characters like Thanos and Jean Grey before they get killed, and every skill has a cooldown eventually, but it's still an extremely powerful skill. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fight one of my friends. We're going to fight Deficit. And if we look at Deficit's team here, he's got tier 3 Deadpool, he's got Quicksilver, and then he's got Captain America. Not necessarily a super impressive PvP team, but I'm doing this to show you guys the following effect. Deficit has a team that I have verified ahead of time that has guard break immunity. Not the whole team, but enough. So we look over at his Deadpool here, and he's got guard break immunity on his obelisk. So I can confirm he should not be able to be guard broken, and there shouldn't be any skills listed that have guard break immunity penetration. His Quicksilver also has guard break immunity. Okay, great. His Captain America does not, so we're going to ignore whatever happens against Captain America. But look very closely what happens in this fight against him when I use my 5th skill on Blue Marvel, and then when I try to use my 3rd skill on Singularity, and then when I do use my 2nd skill on Nova. And they're all going to get, surprise, guard broken. So this is a really easy one to start. We just have to survive Deadpool at first, and then we will be able to show off his 5th skill. But here we go. Here's the 5th skill, and you can see Deadpool is clearly rocking back and forth. I was able to completely interrupt him, and we're going to do it again here with Nova's 2nd skill. Boom, there we go. Oh, well, I got interrupted there, but there we go. More rocking, and it's a very fast rocking, but it's definitely happening. Now, we're going to try to interrupt Quicksilver here and get the 3rd skill off with Singularity. It's a lot more difficult because Singularity is just not that strong, and actually we died. So we're going to have to try again, but I'm sure I can show you again this rocking motion. Actually, I died. But you saw the rocking motion on both Blue Marvel and Nova. We're going to try one more time here to show off Singularity. But for those of you that are veterans to the game, you can attest to back in the day when Singularity's 3rd skill was dominant in Battle World because of the fact that she could guard break multiple characters at the same time. Or sorry, she could guard break them. She could penetrate their guard break immunity, and she could... No, we didn't get it there. And she could basically interrupt characters who would have had guard break immunity on them otherwise. Are we going to get it here? Yeah, sort of. You saw it for a brief second. It was kind of blocked by the explosions and the sort of smoke from the explosions that Deadpool created. But those were head rocks by Deadpool. And you can slow down the video and watch it for yourself. Those were head rocking motions by Deadpool because Singularity was guard break penetrating him. She was guard breaking him even though he has guard break immunity. And now, you know, some of these characters that I've listed have been in the game for a long time. Singularity's been in the game for years. But why is it a problem now? Why am I complaining about it so much now? Well, obviously because it's one thing to have characters who are not very strong have very unique abilities, because you can use them and you can have some effect with them and you can maybe punch up, but you're not going to, you know, completely disrupt everything. Singularity is not an amazing character in this game, so the fact that she has guard break immunity and paralyze immunity and stun immunity on her passive is not a big deal. If they gave this passive effect to someone like Deadpool or Thanos, people would lose their fucking minds, because those are already extremely powerful characters. You know, if you give someone like Mr. Fantastic the same heal as Wolverine, you're just destroying the game, because you're creating a situation in which the best character gets even better than everyone else, and there's this gigantic gap. There's no gap because Singularity has guard break immunity penetration. Get real. But on the other hand, there's a big fucking gap here because this crazy bitch already has all of the tools she needs. She's got one of the highest damage tier 3 skills with Ignore iframe. She's got skills with time freeze. She's got massive damage. She's got lingering effects. She's got crazy self buffs, crazy self heals, iframes. She revives. She has the meta leadership. Oh, and by the way, her 5th skill that gives her a 45% attack buff for 10 seconds and an 80% chance to penetrate for 10 seconds. It also has guard break immunity penetration. So for those of you who have been playing against Jean Grey and you've been using, you know, super meta PvP builds, CTPs of regeneration or CTPs of authority, or obelisks with guard break immunity and a perfectly rolled, you know, 39.5% max HP stat, and you're still frustrated by how much Jean Grey is dunking you and making you, you know, poop your pants and cry, it's not your fault. You're not actually doing anything wrong. The Netmarble devs have created a situation where they put all of these additional effects into the game and they do not make them public. They do not make them official. They do not make them even visible to us unless and until we find out and we're on the receiving end of some really ugly stuff. Again, they've done this in different shades, but it really depends on how much more powerful it's going to make a character and how powerful the character is at the time. Giving Doctor Strange iframe ignore without listing it on his 1st skill is wrong. It was wrong to do that. It was kind of a cute surprise when we found out, because everyone was wondering what did they change about the uniform besides a couple of skill changes on 4. But now we know the big change on Doctor Strange's 1st skill from Infinity War to this one is giving him iframe ignore, and that's cool. Did it make the character better? You bet. Did it give him some unique advantages versus other meta characters? Yes. Does it make the game broken for PvP? No. Does Jean Grey having guard break immunity penetration since she was introduced in 2017 on her 5th skill, does that break the game for PvP? Yeah, maybe. It just might. I don't really know who's going to beat her, and I don't really know and I don't really understand how much uglier PvP is going to have to get in order for someone to stop Jean Grey. This guard break immunity penetration bullshit needs to stop. I don't know if it's something that's coded into the skill because they want the characters to bounce up and down or move side to side because they're being kind of disrupted by these sort of tornado effects or these sort of vortex ball effects. I don't really know what the incentive was in Netmarble's case for doing this, but there's basically 3 options that they have. The first option, they ignore this video and they ignore the problem, and it just gets worse. Fine, whatever. If you want to destroy PvP for Marvel Future Fight, keep doing what you're doing. The second option they have is to remove this effect. Now, it's going to make certain characters worse. It's definitely going to make Jean Grey a little bit worse, but I don't think it's going to make her worse in the sense that she's going to be a bad character. She's still going to be one of the best characters in the game, no doubt about it. So I think it's completely fine, and personally, I would like it if they just completely removed if they completely removed guard break immunity penetration from all of those characters that I listed, including Jean Grey. The third option is that they make this ability, this sort of disruption ability, a new type of thing. Instead of calling it guard break immunity penetration, they call it, let's call it disruption or something like that. And then they create a new obelisk, or they change the existing obelisk stat, which is, I believe it's immune to movement speed down, and they change that to being one that gives you disruption immunity. And then in that case, you have a meta where you can build for certain abilities, and you in a way, you devalue certain CTPs, but then on the other hand, you do pump some value into a stat that is completely worthless. And I'm actually looking for it on an obelisk right now, but I can't find one. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know that it exists right there. Immune to movement speed effect down. If they change that to immune to disrupt effect, and then they reclassify all of these guard break immunity penetration skills as disrupt skills or disrupt effects, then that would be the third way of solving the problem. But it is a problem, and I'm addressing it now. Thank you to the 2 guys for Magic and Yugo, for doing that work on finding out characters who have guard break immunity penetration on their skills. And yeah, with that being said, I want to hear from you guys and hear what you have to say. Let Netmarble know what you have to say as well. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care.